Okay, so on page 40, folks. So, you remember at the end of the previous page that he talks about, he gives his reason. He says, Jekyll must be sick, right? All of this has a very logical reason. Jekyll's sick, that's why he sounds weird, why he looks weird, it's why he wants the medicine, right? It all makes sense. Paul says, Sir, said the butler, turning to a sort of mottled pallor, that thing was not my master. Okay, that thing was not my master. And there's the truth. My master's hit. He looked around him and began to whisper. My master is a tall, fine build of a man. And this was more of a dwarf. What are we supposed to be thinking? Hyde, right? This is Utterson's worst possible situation. Utterson attempted to protest. Oh, sir, cried Paul. Do you think I do not know my master after 20 years? Do you think I do not know where his head comes in the cabinet door, where I saw him every morning of my life? No, sir, that thing in the mask was never Dr. Jekyll. God knows what it was, but it was never Dr. Jekyll. And it is the belief of my heart that there was a murderer done. It is the belief of my heart there was a murder done. So he believes Jekyll is dead. Jekyll dead. He says, oh no, sir, I know my master. That thing was not my master. My master's been murdered. Paul, replied the lawyer, if you say that, it will become my duty to make certain. Ooh, get you, right? So I have to prove it. It'll be my duty. Much as I desire to spare your master's feelings, much as I am puzzled by this note, which seems to prove him to still be alive, I shall consider it my duty to break in that door. What? What's he going to do? What's he going to do? He's going to smash into the room, right? Now this, I want you to think about this, please. Think about the cycle here, right? And the cycle is about doors. What's the first chapter called? The story of the door, right? Remember, what doors symbolise is the separation of the public and the private. At the beginning he says, behind that door is a mystery, but I will not open it. So you do not need that, right? I will not open it. So this, of course, is a change, right? The door, add this please, it will help you later. So it symbolises the public v the private. Okay. So it begins with doors and what's behind the door, the mystery, and now he's going to solve the mystery. He's going to break through the door. He is going to discover what the truth is behind the door. Are we excited? Who's excited? Thank you, me. I shall consider my duty to break in that door. Oh, Mr. Utterson, that's talking, cried the butler. And now comes... I actually love this bit. It's so funny, right? I consider my duty to break in that door. Ah, Mr. Utterson, that's talking, cried the butler. And now comes the second question, resumed Utterson. Who is going to do it? So good, right? It's so good. It's so good. Because he's like, I'm going to break that door down. And he's like, do you want to do it? Or shall I do it? Right? So who is going to do it? Why, you and me, was the undaunted reply. Okay, so he's still a little bit cautious about this, right? He doesn't really want to break down his mate's door. That's very well, returned the lawyer. And whatever comes of it, I shall make it my business that you are no loser. So he says, I will protect you, right? I won't let Jekyll sack you for breaking down his door. There is an axe in the theatre, There's an axe in the theatre, continued Paul, and you might take the kitchen poker for yourself. The lawyer took that rude but weighty instrument into his hand and balanced it. You know, Paul, he said, looking up, that you and I are about to place ourselves in a position of some peril. Do you all know what a kitchen poker is? It's a kitchen poker is basically a metal pole. A metal pole that you used to use to poke the fire. It's a big heavy thing, a weighty instrument. Says, you know, Paul, this is going to be very dangerous what we're about to do. We're about to break into a door and there's a murderer in there maybe. You may say so, sir, indeed, returned the butler. It is well that we should be frank, said the other. Frank means to be honest. We should be frank. We both think more than we have said. Let us make a clean breast. This masked figure you saw, did you recognise it? Well, sir, it went so quick, and the creature was so doubled up that I could hardly swear to that, was the answer. So doubled up means sort of bent in two. But if you mean, was it Mr. Hyde? Why, yes, I think it was. You see, it was much of the same bigness, and it had the same quick, light way with it. And then who else would have got in by the laboratory door? You have not forgot, sir, that at the time of the murder, he still had a key with him. Ooh, clue. That's not all. I don't know, Mr. Utterson, if you ever met this Mr. Hyde. Yes, said the lawyer. I spoke with him once. Then you must know as well as the rest of us, there was something queer about that gentleman, something that gave a man a turn. I don't know rightly how to say it, sir, beyond this, that you felt it in your marrow, kind of cold and thin. So the marrow is like your inner bones. He's like, I don't know what it is, sir, but I feel it in my bones, right? I just don't like him. There's something wrong with him. I own I felt something of what you describe, said Mr. Utterson. Quite so, sir, returned Paul. Well, when that masked thing, says that a lot of times, when that masked thing, like a monkey, jumped from among the chemicals and whipped into the cabinet, it went down my spine like ice. Like a monkey. That thing like a monkey. I felt it in my spine like ice. Right? This is nice. For fear. Oh, I know it's not evidence, Mr. Utterson. I'm book learned enough for that. But a man has his feelings. And I'll give you my Bible word. It was Mr. Hyde. Bible word just means your oath on the Bible. Okay? Like a monkey. He looks like a monkey. I swear, sir. I'm not a smart man, but I know what I've seen. It looked like a monkey. Aye, said the lawyer. My fears incline to the same point. Evil, I fear, founded evil was sure to come. A connection. Ah, truly I believe you. I believe poor Harry Jekyll is killed. I believe his murderer, for what purpose God alone can tell, is still lurking in his victim's room. Will let our name be vengeance. Call Bradshaw. Bradshaw is the footman. Let our name be vengeance. So he's becoming a bit of an action. This is like Keanu Reeves, right? John Wick. Let's get our vengeance. The footman came at summons, very white and nervous. Pull yourself together, Bradshaw, said the lawyer. This suspense, I know, is telling upon all of you. But it is now our intention to make an end of it. Paul, here and I are going to force our way into the cabinet. If all is well, my shoulders are broad enough to bear the blame. Meanwhile, lest anything should be amiss, or any malefactor seek to escape by the back, you and the boy must go round the corner with a pair of good sticks and take your post at the laboratory door. We give you 10 minutes to get to your stations. Okay? So they're going to block the escape. Okay? So the cabinet has 2 doors. The front door, the back door. Get around the back, right? Get some sticks, and if he runs out the back, beat him with the sticks, right? You've got 10 minutes to get ready. As Bradshaw left, the lawyer looked at his watch. And now, Paul, let us get to ours, he said, and taking the poker under his arm, led his way into the yard. The scud had banked over the moon. It was now quite dark. The wind, which only broke in puffs and draughts into that deep well of building, tossed the light of the candle to and fro upon their steps until they came into the shelter of the theatre, where they sat down silently to wait. London hummed solemnly all around. It's nice. Okay, just trying to build some tension up. But nearer at hand, the stillness was only broken by the sounds of a footfall moving to and fro along the cabinet floor. So he's inside. He's pacing back and forth. Oh, sir. So it will walk all day, sir, whispered Paul. Aye, and the better part of the night. Only when a new sample comes from the chemist, there's a bit of a break. Ah, it's an ill conscience that's such an enemy to rest. Ah, sir, there's blood foully shed in every step of it. So the creature walks all night. And Paul says, oh, only wicked people don't sleep, sir. They're scared of their dreams. What kind of nightmares do they have, eh? There's blood in every step. So, guilt. But hark a little closer. Put your heart in your ears, Mr. Utterson, and tell me, is that the doctor's foot? Now what he means by that is he means the step, like the sound of the walking. The steps fell lightly and oddly, with a certain swing, for all they went so slowly. It was different indeed from the heavy creaking tread of Henry Jekyll. Utterson sighed. Is there never anything else? He asked. Paul nodded. Once, he said, once I heard it weeping. I heard it weeping. What does that mean? To weep? God! Means to cry. Weeping. Like leaking liquids out of his eyes, like it can't control it. Weeping? How that? Said the lawyer, conscious of a sudden chill of terror. Weeping like a woman. Oh, Paul. Oh dear. He was doing so well. Weeping like a woman or a lost soul, said the butler. Of course, we all know about women crying all the time, right? I came away with that upon my heart, that I could have wept too. Oi. But now the 10 minutes drew to an end. Paul disinterred the axe from under a stack of packing straw. The candle was set upon the nearest table to light them to the attack, and they drew near with bated breath to where the patient foot was still going up and down in the quiet of the night. Jekyll! Cried Utterson with a loud voice. I demand to see you! He paused a moment, but there came no reply. I give you fair warning. Our suspicions are aroused. I must and shall see you. He resumed. If not by fair means, then by foul. Ooh, what's that remind you all of? Fair is foul and foul is fair. Yeah. If not of your consent, then by brute force. Utterson, said the voice, for God's sake, have mercy. That's not Jekyll's voice, it's Hyde's, cried Utterson. Down with the door, Paul! That was fun, wasn't it? Did you have fun? Feel like that? That was fun, wasn't it? Paul swung the axe. Alright, here's some action. Paul swung the axe over his shoulder. The blow shook the building, and the red bars doors leaped against the lock and hinges. A dismal screech, as of mere animal terror, rang from the cabinet. Up and up went the axe again. And again the panels crashed and the frame bounded. 4 times the blow fell. But the wood was tough, and the fittings were of excellent workmanship. And it was not until the 5th the lock burst in sunder, and the wreck of the door fell inwards on the carpet. So he has to hit it 5 times with his axe. Like bang, 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 smash. Drama. Okay, but of course what they've done is that they have revealed the secrets, right? They've burst through the door. Let's see what they find. Let's see what they find. The besiegers, appalled by their own riot and the stillness that had succeeded, stood back a little and peered in. There lay in the cabinet before their eyes, in the quiet lamplight, a good fire, glowing, chattering on the hearth. So there's a fire. A kettle, singing its thin strain, like a whistle kettle, like an old-fashioned whistle kettle. A drawer or two open. Papers neatly set forth on the business table. And nearer the fire, the things laid out for tea. Okay? Now this, I would say, is quite odd, right? Because it's very calm, right? It's oddly calm. Someone's making tea, the kettle's boiling, the fire's on. They've laid out their cups, maybe a biscuit. The quietest room. You would have said, and but for the glass presses full of chemicals, the most common place that night in London. So there's nothing weird about it. Right in the midst, there lay the body of a man. Okay, there lay the body of a man, sorely contorted and still twitching. That's what contorted is, right? Like twisted. So twisted up. Right in the midst there, the body of a man, sorely contorted and still twitching. They drew near on tiptoe. Turned it on its back. Thank you, people. Turned it on its back and beheld the face of Edward Hyde. Dead. I'm hearing a lot of people say, wait, what? So they go in, and lying on the floor is a body doing this, right? Face down doing this. And they turn him over, and it's Hyde. Right? His face like that, right? Hyde is dead. He's on the floor, twitching. He was dressed, this is important, people, he was dressed in the clothes of far too large for him, clothes of the doctor's bigness. So he's wearing Jekyll's clothes. The cords of his face still moved the semblance of life. So the muscles in his face are still like moving when he's dead. He's like, but the life was quite gone. Okay? And by the crushed vial in the hand and the strong smell of kernels that hung upon the air, Utterson knew he was looking on the body of a self-destroyer. He has killed himself. Okay? He has taken poison. So as they burst in the door, this screaming up here at the top, the dismal screech we can now know is his death. So as they're bursting in the door, he goes, "No!" and dies. "We have come too late," he said sternly, "whether to save or punish. Hyde is gone to his account. It only remains for us to find the body of your master. So, where is Jekyll?" The greater proportion of the building was occupied by the theatre, which filled almost the whole ground story and was lighted from above, and by the cabinet, which formed an upper story at one end and looked upon the court. A corridor joined the theatre to the door on the by street, and with this, focus please people, with this the cabinet communicated separately by a second flight of stairs. There were besides a few dark closets and a spacious cellar. Okay, so they're looking for the body. All these they now thoroughly examined. Okay, so they're looking for the body of Jekyll. Each closet needed but a glance, for they were all empty. They were all empty, and all, by the dust that fell from their doors, had stood long unopened. Okay, so it's a bit of a mystery. Where is Jekyll? The cellar indeed was filled with crazy lumber, mostly dating from the time of the surgeon who was Jekyll's predecessor. But even as they opened the door, they were advised of the uselessness of further search by the fall of a perfect mat of cobwebs, which have for years sealed up the entrance. So no one's been in the cellar, all the cupboards are empty. Nowhere was there any trace of Henry Jekyll, dead or alive. Nowhere. Paul stamped on the flags of the corridor. Now this is the flags of the stones. "He must be buried here," he said, hearkening to the sounds. "Or he may have fled," said Utterson, and he turned to examine the door to the by street. It was locked, and lying near on the flags they found a key. The key already stained with dust. Okay, so he hasn't escaped. "This does not look like use," observed the lawyer. "Use!" echoed Paul. "Do you not see, sir? It is broken, much as if a man had stamped on it." So he's locked himself in. He's locked the door from the inside, and he's stamped on the key till it's snapped in half. "Aye," continued Utterson, "and the fractures too are rusty." The two men looked at each other with scare. "This is beyond me." "Paul," said the lawyer, "let us go back to the cabinet." They mounted the stair in silence, and still with an occasional awestruck glance at the dead body, proceeded more thoroughly to examine the contents of the cabinet. At one table there were traces of chemical work, various measured heaps of some white salt. Okay, this is important, please. Right, if you shifted your focus a little bit, try and get back in. Okay, we've only got like 2 pages to go. Okay, so there's chemical work, there's white salt in glass saucers, as though from an experiment in which the unhappy man had been prevented. "That is the same drug that I was always bringing him," said Paul, and even as he spoke, the kettle with startling noise boiled over. This brought them to the fireside, where the easy chair was drawn cosily up, and the tea things stood ready for the sitter's elbow. the very sugar in the cup. There were several books on the shelf. One lay beside the tea things open, and Utterson was amazed to find it a copy of a pious work, underline please, for which Jekyll had several times expressed great esteem, annotated in his own hand with startling blasphemies. Okay, so a pious work is a religious book, but it's been graffitied. So somebody has written blasphemous things, right? Like what? What's a blasphemous thing you can write in a book? God is an idiot. I don't like God. Is there even a God? So Jekyll has written his own book that he loved, blasphemies. Next, in the course of their review of the chamber, their searches came upon the cheval glass. Remember these? That's these glasses here, the boiling glasses, in whose depths they looked with an involuntary horror. But it was so turned as to show them nothing but the rosy glow playing on the roof, the fire sparkling 100 repetitions on the glazed front of the presses, and their own pale and fearful countenances stooping to look in. This glass hath seen some strange things, sir, whispered Paul. Okay, so this is it. Chemicals and experiments. Weird things have happened in this glass, sir, and surely none stranger than itself, echoed the lawyer in some tones. For what did Jekyll? He caught himself up at the word of a start, then conquered the weakness. What could Jekyll want with it? You may say that, said Paul. Next they turned to the business table. On the desk among the neat array of papers, a large envelope was uppermost, and bore in the doctor's hand the name of Utterson. What have we got, people? It's another letter. The lawyer unsealed it, and several enclosures fell to the floor. What's inside the letter? More letters! Right? Letters! Way! The first was a will. Okay? Drawn in the same eccentric terms as the one which he had returned 6 months before, to serve as a testament in case of death and as a deed of gift in the case of disappearance. But in the place of the name of Edward Hyde, the lawyer, with indescribable amazement, read the name of Gabriel John Utterson. So, who gets all of Jekyll's money in the new will? Mr. Utterson. So, this is a bit weird, right? So, Jekyll, add this please, Jekyll gives all to Utterson. So, he's crossed out the name of Hyde and given it to Mr. Utterson. Good day, right? He looked at Paul, and then back at the paper, and last of all the dead malefactor stretched upon the carpet. My head goes round, which means that he's baffled. He's baffled. He said, "It has been all these days in possession. He had no cause to like me. He must have raged to see himself displaced. And he has not destroyed the document." Says, why hasn't Hyde destroyed the will? Okay, doesn't make any sense. Jekyll wrote the will to give everything to Utterson. Why would Hyde not destroy it? He caught the next paper. It was a brief note in the doctor's hand and dated at the top. "Oh, Paul!" the lawyer cried. "He was alive and here this day. He cannot have been disposed of in so short a space. He must still be alive. He must have fled. And then why fled and how? And in that case we can venture to declare this suicide. Oh, we must be careful. I foresee that we may yet involve your master in some dire catastrophe." "Why don't you read it, sir?" asked Paul. "Because I fear," replied the lawyer solemnly. "God grant I have no cause for it." And with that he brought the paper to his eyes and read as follows. Jekyll's letter. Jekyll's note. Ellie, you got this? Jekyll's notes. My dear Utterson. You're doing very well, folks. Keep it going. I know it's a long chapter. My dear Utterson, when this shall fall into your hands, I shall have disappeared. Okay, interesting. Under what circumstances I have not the penetration to foresee, but my instinct and all the circumstances of my nameless situation tell me that the end is sure and must be early. So I'm going to die. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I know it will be soon. Go then, and first read the narrative which Lanyon warned me he was to place in your hands, aka chapter 9. And if you care to hear more, turn to the confession of your unworthy and unhappy friend, Henry Jekyll. The confession is chapter 10. So, he gets a letter. The letter says, Mr. Utterson is getting all the money, and a second note says, go read the letter that Lanyon gave you, and then read my letter. And if you want to know the truth, it's in the letters. There was a third enclosure, asked Utterson. Here, sir, and gave into his hands a considerable packet, sealed in several places. The lawyer put it in his pocket. I would say nothing of this paper. If your master has fled or is dead, we may as well at least save his credit. So even in death, right, underline please, even in death, he's thinking about reputation. He says, if your master is dead, we can save his reputation. Don't tell anybody about the letter. It is now 10. I must go home and read these documents in quiet. Imagine if you're Paul. Imagine if you're Paul and it's like, here's the letter with all the mystery. He's like, come on, let's read it together. No, I must read it on my own, in my own home, in quiet. But I shall be back before midnight, when we shall send for the police. They went out. Okay. They went out, locking the door of the theatre behind them. And Utterson, once more leaving the servants gathered about the fire in the hall, trudged back to his office to read the two narratives in which the mystery was to be explained. Truth. Now, of course, those two narratives are the end of the book. Now, of course, this is the end of the narrative. Okay? So we never find out what Utterson thinks about what he reads. We never find out what happens with the police. This is the end of the story.